The Power Trading Hour with your host, David White. Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648 or internationally at 727-873-7618. Now, David White.
The following takes place between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m.
As we come together each time at this day, the sacred time, what do we have? Well, a market that's double dog daring the Fed guy to do a little bit more. We've got the meeting tomorrow. Of course, an announcement at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And, of course, 2:30, a press event that lasts normally till about 3:15. On Thursday morning, I think it's at 7:45, we've got the ECB coming out with news. And that will set up a little bit more in the market. Tomorrow, the start, maybe the end. You never know how long these OPEC plus one meetings go. But my understanding is supposed to start early tomorrow. Now, since the price of crude responded very well after Russia started shipping tons and tons of new oil into the markets, both Russians and OPEC itself are pretty happy. That it could have gone a lot worse. Even the Energy Department here says that they've lost control over Russian pricing. So right now we're funding both sides of a bigger war. Not uncommon in history. Generally, the people on the front lines tend to be what they called cannon fodder. But, not going to change history, are we? Of course, we're looking down a double barrel of fund buying as soon as all of this is over. So the question is, are they pumping this up to fail, or going to blow it apart tomorrow and then come back and buy more shares? Well, volume right now is about 6.5 billion shares on the CBOE. That is not a strong movement. We talked on Monday a bit about the huge amount of hedge fund short sellers. And, we talked last week about how there was a biblical level. That's where the rivers turn to blood, frogs fall from the skies, locusts eat everything, real wrath of God kind of stuff. Anyway, there was biblical levels of shorting in Tesla. That continued with 40% yesterday. Not a big surprise to see it bounce a little bit more. So the question is, are they just trying to run these hedge funds out at the top? Maybe the hedge fund folk are right, but they're going to be extremely wrong before they're right. And maybe it's just the people on the street. Well, the big thing that I find highly dubious is just how much money is not coming from the street. There's been a giant change in the amount of people, or I would say people, amount of shares being traded across the dark pools. And before, that's always led to something rather large. We also have pretty outrageous trend levels in the Amex, and that's always foreshadowed by a handful of days a tremendous move in the market. Option market makers are trying to get flat into tomorrow's Fed meeting. So I don't know if we have a great deal other than, as I said, everybody trying to front run what the Fed is going to do tomorrow. One of the more interesting issues I saw out here and people yakking and blabbing about was Caterpillar, which actually had a fairly good earnings, but is lower. And the story on that is, I think, like the rest of the market, I think that there's a great deal of people that are way over the tips of their skis going forward. The market is said to discount 6 to 9 months ahead, but what do you get, maybe 3 months ahead in Caterpillar? So there is a lot in that that I find very interesting. Of course, other stocks out there in the semi space, like Micron, gapped lower. We talked about that, and that it got up there, but just really didn't have that much extra juice to blow out the previous highs. Did go above it, did have just slightly lighter volume, but wasn't able to hold the high. Got within, a dime of it, the previous November 15th high on the 27th, and that's it. Of course, this is the last day of the month. That takes us into, fund buying is generally the last 2 days, first 3 days of the next month, of the trading days of the next month. So how many people are going to want to get in front of the Fed? In the history, not many fund buyers or fund managers want to get in front of the Fed. They'd much rather buy at a higher price knowing something than rather buying at a lower price not knowing something. So anyway, when we look at some of these that are extremely interesting to me today, it's certainly Apple. Of course, numbers out from Samsung are the worst that they've ever been for a drop-off in cell phones. And, of course, we kind of saw that in Apple going into Christmas. A lot of people dismissed it. You're down a little bit, not a lot of juice. Now, some of the other massively shorted stocks are NVIDIA and AMD. I'm not surprised to see a little bit of a pop out of AMD. Earnings out after the bell tonight. You're kind of back up there. I mean, for a price, Intel has basically decided to chain their hopes to the Titanic. And we all know how that went. Now, the problem with AMD and NVIDIA is both of these are at least half tied to retail sales. Intel is not. Laptops are maybe 15% of their business or profit. So not as bad. When we look at NVIDIA, it got right back up to where this gap happened back on the 5th of May in 2022. That had 62 million shares. You got into it with 54 million shares, and you're pulling it back. The real problem is in handicapping both NVIDIA and AMD is they continue to do rather stupid stuff because they had a lot of inventory left over from last fall where they misjudged the market. And granted, I don't know if it's their whole fault to know that something as speculative and nutty as Bitcoin or Bitcoin, depending on where you're at, had a problem in that. So anyway, they continue to try to dance around a lot of old stock, try to get the new stock, at the same time jacking up prices to the level that people saw for a few years for scalpers. So kind of ticking off their base. We'll be back in a minute.
Currencies, commodities, and bond markets are as important as ever right now with how they're driving the volatility in equity markets across the globe, which is why it's a great time to try out Teddy Kegstad's Tiger Forex Report. Teddy Kegstad breaks down the Forex markets every Monday using his 30-plus years of experience as a trading veteran of futures, Forex, stocks, and options. Teddy releases his weekly Tiger Forex Report every Monday morning with coverage of all the major currency pairs, including the dollar index, the euro dollar, pound dollar, dollar Swiss, dollar yen, as well as many more, and he also has weekly coverage of the crude oil market and the 30-year T-bonds, as they both influence Forex markets tremendously. When you sign up for the Tiger Forex Report, you also gain instant access to Teddy's 60-minute webinar archive he just hosted, Forex Strategies and Fundamentals, What is Behind the Tiger Forex Report. For all the details and to start your 30-day Tiger Forex Report subscription today, visit the front page of TFNN.com. TFNN, educating investors.
Are you grinding in the market, but seeing little to no return? Or are you a successful trader, simply looking to make your job a little easier? Learn to take the path of least resistance with David White's powerful trading newsletter. David White is an accomplished trader whose deep understanding of technology and the markets allows him to consistently find and share winning trades. Support and resistance define the ranges in which stocks trade. By understanding these trading ranges, David White is able to find the path of least resistance. David White's trading newsletter, The Path of Least Resistance, is delivered daily before the markets open to make every trading day an easy win. Visit TFNN.com today and subscribe to David White's Ultimate Trading Newsletter for $119 a month and try all of our newsletters risk-free with our 30-day money-back guarantee. Take the path of least resistance at TFNN, educating investors. Are you looking for a way to consistently add winning trades to your portfolio? Tom O'Brien is here to help. Tom O'Brien has been successfully trading markets for over 30 years. A frequent contributor to TD Ameritrade Network and CNBC, Tom O'Brien founded TFNN over 20 years ago to help educate investors just like you. Tom's daily market newsletter, Market Insights, is published every morning when the markets open to give you the competitive informational edge you need to succeed. These newsletters are packed full of Tom's advanced technical analysis and are geared to deliver comprehensive strategies for a successful portfolio. Get Tom O'Brien's newsletter, Market Insights, today and try all of our products and newsletters 30 days risk-free with our money-back guarantee at TFNN.com. TFNN, educating investors.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-873-7618.
Talking a little bit about what's going on. Let's do a little history and then we'll move on. And history doesn't actually repeat as much as it rhymes.
Then it's all just a little bit of history repeating.
On this day in 1950, U.S. President Harry S. Truman publicly announces his decision to support the development of the hydrogen bomb, a weapon theorized to be hundreds of times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Japan during World War II. And of course, there were a lot of hand-wringing when we were worried about the Nazis. No problem in developing a nuclear weapon, but we had a lot of people that were real true believers in a socialist utopia, and they really couldn't see the evil that the Soviet Union was. They were so clouded in dogma. Many of them that were responsible for developing the atomic bomb were radically against any further development. And of course, Teller, who was one of the big helps in building the original bomb, was a big proponent of it. His entire family were killed by the Bolsheviks, so he wanted nothing more to do more than to literally incinerate all of the Soviet Union if he could. But it didn't make him wrong. The Soviets had already started on the hydrogen bomb. And of course, scant years later, a couple of years later, the first fission bomb blew up. And they did make a horrible mistake and underestimated its explosive power by about 7 times, if I remember right. But on this day in 1950, the president, Harry S. Truman, announces to throw a bunch of money to build a hydrogen weapon. 877-927-6648. Okay, what else do we have here? Question about what's going on with Cummings. Of course, anything that we're digging for, like cobalt, if we're not using child slave labor like they do in Africa, so that we can have our electric vehicles. As long as it happens over there, it just doesn't happen, right? Isn't that the way that literally everything is now? We just, as long as we can't see it here in the United States, it hasn't happened. Anyway, question about Cummins and their work on huge hydrogen engines. And yeah, they announced that a little while ago. They've added a few more tidbits to the mix and some pressers out there. But yeah, they're talking about huge 2,000 horsepower and bigger hydrogen, literally running and burning hydrogen, not fuel cell vehicles. But they've also announced, as I said last week, more fuel cell add-ons for huge dump trucks along the time. Right now, of course, there's really no way to replace diesel for these giant dump trucks and mining to get the rare earths out of the ground so that we can have EV cars here. So I don't know. It's kind of a very tortured analogy to me, but Cummins, the old saying is, if you don't set a ship out, you should never wait for your ship to come back in. They are working on it. They've got I think a 10 and 20 cylinder version of these things that are fairly large. And other than hydrogen burns at about 85% of the power that you would get from gasoline, it's unclear just how powerful with higher compression rates they can make these hydrogen engines, but at least they're advertising them about the same horsepower that the diesel variant would have. 877-927-6648. And what else do we have out here? Oh, you got a lot of movers. We talked a little bit about Apple. Did I show a chart there earlier? Not much going on there. Let's go through some of the other earnings before everybody gives me a ring. And we're up 38 points. Not a lot of volume, though, and especially some of the warning signals I see. We may be in for a huge disappointment, but that would mean that I have to read the mind of one individual, and I'm not very good at that. I'm very good at reading the minds of lots of people, and right now lots of people are telling the Fed that you better be fairly dovish tomorrow or there will be hell to pay. Anyway, AJG had a big spike, a couple of days, not much going on there. I don't know why you wanted me to look at that one. AOS, of course, there's a bunch of stocks today bouncing in the home building sector. A lot of people trying to still get in before interest rates go higher, and that really pushed home sales, at least in the last quarter, fairly well. This is kind of the last effort to get in front of a housing market that's probably going to rapidly cool on higher interest rates across the next year. Many people just trying to get in on those lower interest rates before they go higher. But my guess is this is a blip for it. We've got to look at mRNA. And they're getting a little bit more heat. They had one of their doctors, I don't know if they told him to do it, but he wrote an article critical about news from last week. He forgot to tell everybody he was a doctor from Moderna. So there's a little bit of heat coming on that. But certainly, as we talked a little bit yesterday, the denial for gain of function and directed evolution. Man, are you talking about 1984 terms that are starting to make your head spin? Certainly, that's it. Now, we also have a official end to the pandemic that's supposed to happen somewhere, April or 1st of May or something. I don't know if that changes much in this. It would be very questionable if there isn't a lawsuit on whether or not you can continue to use many of these vaccines that have not been approved for widespread use other than for emergency use. And I think that's all of them up to this point. So you may see that. Not a lot of volume. Support comes back in at about 170, but that's about it. It could be, as we start getting into hearings on a lot of this stuff, it could get a lot murkier. As we said, next week, there's Twitter folk that will be in front of Congress, and they're going to be dragging next after that the Google folks, and they've got a little bit more evil on their side too. We'll talk about that when we return.
If you want to take advantage of this sector, now is the time to subscribe to my Gold Report. The Gold Report is a comprehensive look at the metals sector as well as the markets that move gold, which is the currency and bond markets. New subscribers get a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. Every Monday morning, I publish the Gold Report with coverage of gold, silver, bonds, the XAU, HUI, GDX, as well as more than 30 different mining equities. To see for yourself the types of profitable trades that are recommended within the Gold Report, sign up now by visiting TFNN.com. Don't miss out on the next great gold trade. Sign up today.
Sharpening your skills as an investor is like getting better at playing a musical instrument. You have to practice, sure, but you also need excellent instruction from experts. At TFNN, you'll get advice and guidance from the authority in technical market analysis. And it's not just dry, tedious text either. TFNN airs live financial content streamed live on TFNN.com and TFNN's YouTube channel with Tiger TV, live every market day from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern. For free. Each host is an experienced trader and gives their take on the market while taking calls and questions live from around the world. From the moment the market opens until the closing bell sounds, Tiger TV has 8 different shows with expert hosts to help you make the right moves with your money. Watch online at TFNN.com or on TFNN's YouTube channel and become the investor you were born to be. TFNN, educating investors.
TFNN is excited about our new software charting program, The Art of Timing the Trade Charts. In collaboration with Tom O'Brien and using his best-selling book, The Art of Timing the Trade, Your Ultimate Trading Mastery System, David White has programmed an outstanding piece of software that will complement any trader's methodology. Using this first-of-its-kind program, The Art of Timing the Trade Charts allows you to scan thousands of stocks for Fibonacci formation setups, including Gartley's, ABCs, butterflies, and much more. The Art of Timing the Trade Charts is designed to help you when scouring the markets for stocks just beginning to form the trading patterns that many investors spend days, weeks, or even months searching to find. And right now, we're offering licenses available at only $79 a month. We are so confident that you're going to love this new charting software that will even give you a 30-day unconditional money-back guarantee. Don't miss out on this incredible new piece of software. Get your copy of The Art of Timing the Trade Charts today by visiting TFNN.com.
This segment is brought to you by Thinkorswim. For more information, just click the Thinkorswim banner on the front page of TFNN.com.
And we're back. Anyway, Eric Schmidt back in the focus of many today, former, still half involved in Google. He came into a pretty large hailstorm last fall when he was found out to be the head of a panel trying to look in the ethics of AI or machine learning. And found out that during the meantime, he was heavily investing in most of them, or as many of them as he could, at a significantly reduced price. And, of course, we're familiar with insiders in the government being able to get away with actual murder. And we've got that again now as he's looking at doing the same thing. Somehow he's decided that he is now a great medical expert and going to get back in knee deep to some of these folks in the biotech area. But promised a lot. There is no real, real penalty if he doesn't, apparently, as long as these are non-public companies. But he, one reason to get into this kind of business is to be able to have first pickings of all the stuff that you want off the tray before stocks like any of these biotechs make it to the market. I have a feeling that this will be yet another big issue with Google going forward. And, of course, already have 2 lawsuits on antitrust for the way that they are handling rates on advertising. But a lot of people are really high on them. They're up just a little bit on very light volume today. Let's go back and check on volume here, where we have about 7 billion shares. So it's going to be a lighter day, but that's always in front of the Fed. And, of course, they're pushing it back up to the top, assuming that he will be great. I think maybe we're looking at one of the great shorting opportunities of the last few years if we continue to go up on light volume. Now, maybe the Fed does buckle like a $5 suitcase, but I don't think he's going to. I think the market's just double dog daring him to continue raising interest rates. I think he will. Many people say that he basks in the sun that was Paul Volcker. Everybody says, no, it's not like that. Just move along. I don't think every time you go to the grocery store or the gas line or anything else that we can say that we've handled inflation anywhere close to being correctly. Okay, other things out here. Let's go back to some other ones. Okay. Okay. What do we have? Adaptic? Yeah, you almost have the volume there. Maybe by the end of the day, but I'd still say that you really wanted to. I'd want to probably see something in the neighborhood 3.5 million shares. That's going to be pretty hard today. That's APTV. ARE, Alexander Real Estate. Not much going on in that one. CHD. Okay. Church and Dwight. Not much on that one. We already talked about Cummings. This is kind of interesting. ECL, Echo Labs, up a little bit, but about half the volume, which is about most of it. Of course, Ford, out with news, nice gap. Everybody was talking and pushing it as hard as they could yesterday, mostly on the EV front. I don't know exactly why, since it's a loser at the moment for them. The more cars they sell, the more that they will lose. They're trying to become, or at least get some market share. Anyway, pop up volume is okay today. Don't know if there's a lot to say other than that. Of course, General Motors, a ton of people short in that. A much bigger bounce and a much bigger volume pop in it today to 39.73 for the high with 34 million shares. This is going to be the biggest day in a while. Let's see if we go back to May 12th of 2022 where you had more volume. So it's a pretty big day. Why everybody is trying to talk a good game. I think the biggest thing on this right now is that their sales were okay, and they had far too many people, as we spoke of yesterday and today, in the hedge fund being bearish. Generac, after a thrashing in which they were beat above the head and genitals for a while, what did they have? 329 for a high. back on March 4th of 2022, back to 120, which is just where this gap down was on the 19th of October. That had about 13 million shares. You're into it with about, let's call it 800,000 shares now. Garmin, not a whole lot of movement on that news, though. GWW, I can't even say it. GWW, which is Granger, a company I went to many, many times while I was working for the previous company I worked for, which is now 20 years in the rearview mirror that I've been only a stock trader. Half the volume back up against the previous high. I had 375,000 shares on the 11th. We're breaking through that. And what did you get? You got 177,000 so far. Now, maybe the most important is how everybody's so sure that we're going back up to the moon, and that is people running and front-running international paper. Now, if this continues, that's probably telling me I'm wrong to be bearish at this point. I think, again, a ton of people all short, and you just don't whiff on this particular earnings call, but a nice pop back up to 41.89. You got some decent volume. The question is whether or not after a couple of days, just the shorts being squeezed in this continue to be a problem. Let's see what else we have. What does that actually mean? I can't read it. Okay. Palladium, I can't even say it today. I'm so tired. Palladium batteries. I haven't seen anybody that has one that's economically ready to go. So, I mean, there's a bunch of batteries I've seen that have been pushed. None of them are approaching anywhere close to the price of lithium ion right now. A lot of them kind of pie in the sky. I still suspect, we were talking about Cummins and hydrogen cars. There were 3 more big Japanese companies that signed on to the hydrogen. I'm trying to remember what the Japanese call it. Anyway, the big consortium of hydrogen, Kawasaki and Suzuki last week. We'll be back in a minute.
Sharpening your skills as an investor is like getting better at playing a musical instrument. You have to practice, sure, but you also need excellent instruction from experts. At TFNN, you'll get advice and guidance from the authority in technical market analysis. And it's not just dry, tedious text either. TFNN airs live financial content streamed live on TFNN.com and TFNN's YouTube channel with Tiger TV, live every market day from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern, for free. Each host is an experienced trader and gives their take on the market while taking calls and questions live from around the world. From the moment the market opens until the closing bell sounds, Tiger TV has 8 different shows with expert hosts to help you make the right moves with your money. Watch online at TFNN.com or on TFNN's YouTube channel and become the investor you were born to be. TFNN, educating investors.
The technology around us is changing every day. With so much happening, it can seem impossible to keep up with all the information. David White's investment newsletter, The Technology Insider, is designed to give you all the information you need to understand the technology that shapes today's markets and tomorrow's future. David White has made his living staying on the cutting edge of technology. His weekly newsletter will give you specific recommendations for value tech stocks, as well as entry prices, target prices, and stops to set for each trade. Dave delivers his weekly newsletters every Friday with updates throughout the week. You can get the Technology Insider at TFNN.com for only $37.50. Sign up for David's newsletter, The Technology Insider, and get an inside look at everything the technology sector has to offer. Try it risk-free today with a 30-day money-back guarantee. TFNN, educating investors.
Are China A-shares hot or not? If you trade China A-shares, now may be time to take a closer look. Trade CHAU or CHAD, Directions Daily CSI 300 China A-share Bull and Bear ETFs. China A-shares in either direction. Visit directioninvestments.com today. An investor should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the Direction shares carefully before investing. The prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction shares. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus, please contact Direction shares at 866-476-7523. The prospectus or summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors. Distributor Foreside Fund Services, LLC.
This program is brought to you by Vista Gold, traded on the NYSE American and TSX under the symbol VGZ.
Of what did I? Yeah, hopefully I get it back out here. Did I? Where did I get the old? Hey, come on. Largo Incorporated. Yeah, they are a Canadian company that sells. I'm trying to remember how it's pronounced. Vanadium deposits. Largo Resources changed their name in 2021. I always wonder about that. Why do they have to change their name so subtly? But anyway, no, I don't see much or I don't hear much about them. And of course, this is more for large-scale power stations to equalize their power output. The biggest problem is that all you have to do is build some water towers, and when you have extra energy, pump the water higher, and that's like 95% efficient, and the cost is extremely low. I don't see that as a big business unless you can't build giant water towers to do it. You know, in some places of the country, they'll make giant reservoirs, and they do the same thing during the night when the power draw is less. They'll pump water back up into the reservoir. During the day, if they need instant access to more power, they just open the gates, and within about 5 to 10 seconds, they've got the power coming back on if everybody decides to turn the Super Bowl on at once, etc. The sun comes out, the sun gets cloudy, or it gets, during the day, you may need a lot more power when the sun comes out, not much as much when you do. So you try to run the generators using the least amount of fuel that you can, and then, when it's cheaper at night, not the heavy demand, you pump water back up either into that. But, as many people are kind of overthinking just how much batteries are going to be affordable for power stations. Those batteries are only there to make sure the first 5 or 10 seconds of power doesn't go away. Those things don't last very long either. You build something with water power, can last for 50, 80 years. So, you're going to be replacing batteries every 10, 15 years, even with the best of them. I don't see it being economical quite yet, but just one man's opinion. LKQ, right up at its previous high. Let's see what we have for volume here. Okay, you want about 4 million shares. You got about 400,000. So, Yeah, this one's very speculative. mRNA. We talked about this one already, just back into a level of support. We talked about Micron right off the bat with the gap down. PFE, Mr. Pfizer. You got some decent volume today, but I think that a lot of these are probably going to come back and test their lows. They're close enough now. The October 11th low on Pfizer, $40.72, 21 million shares on that day. PFG, a big dragonfly today, Principal Financial Group. Don't know if that's a bad tick or not, but big wide ranging. PHM is, as we talked about, the big gaps in some of these housing. But again, I don't know if you would say housing is that good. I would say more than likely it is an okay earnings call with a monstrous amount of shorts. And this is in a bear market. You can have vicious trends back higher as everybody continues to short, and short some more. And why I've kind of stayed away from shorting housing at the moment. Tomorrow, this may be a shot in the pan if Powell is not as dovish as they think he's going to be, or apparently they think he's going to be. To SYY, we talked about this company yesterday in Cisco. I was saying that I didn't see that many people in the chains down here as we had even last year. And we've got more people down from the winter. A lot of the Canadians couldn't make it last winter. So anyway, I've gone by them. They just haven't been that busy. You did go back and tag this gap higher. The gap is from October 17th. That had 2.1 million shares. You got into it today with 6.1 million shares and did a little bit of a reverse, still lower than yesterday. A ton of volume. If we had light volume today, this chart would look a lot better. To me, it just looks like it tagged 73.68 is something it wants to go test. Maybe not in the next day or two, but I think you're probably looking at that level being tested sooner rather than later. Let's see. Okay. Let's go back to that. IWM and see, they're talking about IWM and SPY volumes. Let's take a look at that real quick. Right now, up with 12.5 million on the IWM. And what do you have? Some of the bigger ones out here. 36 million. So if you have anything else. I mean, the biggest problem I have is you can draw a trend line on the IWM, and you're kind of up to it right now. So that's one problem. Let's take a quick look at the SPYs. Same kind of thing, except you really kind of got into the trend line on January 27th at 408.16 with just 74 million shares. The last highs you had 145 million shares. So you're kind of barking on that tree, didn't quite get there, but the volume was very light. And again, about half the volume you had yesterday. 74.2 million shares, today 34 million shares. So again, a lot of people, I think, way over the tips of their skis, all praying that you have a very dovish Powell tomorrow as he does his walk on the catwalk.
If you're looking for potential trading setups in the stock market, then Rocket Equities and Options Report is a newsletter you should try. Tommy O'Brien delivers options and equity trades when the markets present them using a combination of fundamentals and technicals. Sign up for Rocket Equities and Options Report today with a 30-day money-back guarantee so you have nothing to risk. For all the details and to start your subscription today, visit the front page of TFNN.com. TFNN, educating investors.
You might think that if you want to be successful at trading in the stock market, you're going to need a crystal ball. After all, it's impossible to predict the future, right? Like any endeavor in life, before you decide it's impossible, get some advice from the experts. You might find that it's not so impossible after all. For daily market overviews that give you direction on the key indices, selective stocks, and commodities, subscribe to the Opening Call newsletter at TFNN.com. The Opening Call newsletter is written by Basil Chapman, creator of the trading methodology known as the Chapman Wave. The Chapman Wave up-down sequence gives you an edge in identifying price turns, finding the peaks and valleys in stock prices. Get the Opening Call newsletter by Basil Chapman in your inbox every day. First-time subscribers also get a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you're not satisfied, let us know, and you'll get a full refund within 30 days of signing up. TFNN.com, educating investors.
Everything in the universe is governed by the Fibonacci sequence. This mathematical principle is responsible for everything from the most aesthetically pleasing artwork to patterns in the stock market. To stay on top of stock patterns you can take advantage of, sign up for the Fibonacci 24/7 newsletter at TFNN.com. When you subscribe, you'll get a weekly report from veteran day trader Larry Pesavento on stocks you need to pay attention to. And you can trust Larry's analysis. After all, he's got 45 years experience as a day trader. Larry will also provide daily charts, videos, and data on the key markets that he's tracking. Expect notifications from Larry on market movement you need to act on at any time. First-time subscribers also get a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you're not satisfied, let us know and you'll get a full refund within 30 days of signing up. Subscribe to the Fibonacci 24/7 newsletter today. TFNN.com, educating investors.
TFNN has launched the Tiger's Den. Hosted at Discord, TFNN has been educating traders for more than 20 years with live programming hosted by a variety of professional traders during market hours. The Tiger's Den, available to all tigers and tigresses for just $1 for the year. There's no catch or added costs when you join our community of traders. Sign up today and become a part of this educational community of traders. Just visit the front page of TFNN.com.
Catch Tom O'Brien, professional trader and educator, founder of TFNN. Also, a special guest on CNBC. Tom will bisect and dissect the markets. The Tom O'Brien Show, next on TFNN.
And we got a question on Microsoft. If this is an ABC up, which I'm doubtful with the kind of volume we have as we're breaking through the January 23rd high with 32 million shares, you've got 11.5 million shares so far. Your 1-to-1 is 256.72. So maybe we blow through this with volume after tomorrow. They didn't have a good time with earnings. They really didn't talk up a big future. They talked a great deal about how cloud services is being more problematic. I don't know if the market cares at this point. Everybody's just so sure that there's not going to be a recession. We've hit the lows and we're going forward, that it's probably going to take a 2x4 to the head to get most of these folks to not go back crazy all over again and start driving the market higher. There just isn't the volume. As we talked at the opening segment, I see a lot of evidence that the big men of Wall Street are not chasing this, but probably selling into it. And that always makes me worry. We also have some incredibly low numbers in the trend for the Amex trend, and that is about, 80% ETFs. And that tells me that that's a lot of retail money coming in. Generally, the big men of Wall Street don't buy those ETFs. That's telling you that the cash coming in is generally from the people that are mostly wrong, the retail trader. So I am very nervous. I see a lot of pops here. I have a feeling that we're going to have a lot more of a red pill tomorrow than many people think. Sell when you can, not when you have to. We'll be back here tomorrow to call the live play-by-play.
Building wealth trading in the stock market seems impossible.